You know who I think the most dangerous man right now in the country is? Well, okay, that's hyperbolic. I shouldn't say that. But you know what? You want to know who I think is one of the most dangerous people in the country? Dr. Fauci. You know why?
Oh, yeah, I hate that.
But let me tell you exactly why. He is going out saying that even if you get the vaccine, nothing will change.
Yep.
You still have to social distance. You still have to mask. You still still can't reopen your business. The people that are saying that the vaccine will not do anything for us are telling people not to get it. And that's Fauci doing that. Mm-hmm. So I talk to people and I ask my friends, are you going to get the vaccine? They're like, why? What's the point? And I'm like, what do you mean, what's the point? So who cares? Fauci said nothing's going back to normal. And I'm like, why is this guy saying these things? He's making people not want to go and actually take care of themselves.
Well, he was telling people, too, in March 2020, nobody believes me. And then I say, here's the article. Oh, you can go on a cruise ship. Everything's fine. So if you look at anything that he said, the guy's kind of an idiot. I think Jordan Schnachtel or whatever. I'm really bad with names, as you'll learn, is actually people thought it was a bit where I'd mispronounce names to be like Alpha. And like, no, I just really don't know names. I just really am that bad.
Same.
And Fauci has just fallen upward his entire government career. He's actually not an impressive person. When you watch him talk more than one time, all he can do is talk in buzzwords. Oh, the world's not going to turn to normal. Talk about math. Talk about the numbers. Talk about the models you gave. He's not going to do it. And like you said, he unintentionally presents a case against vaccinations because you're like, do I really want to do this? I was on the line. Nothing's going to change anyway. I'm going to keep doing it. And that's government, though. I mean, the lesson of Corona, honestly, man, was, you watch those movies, Independence Day, the world rallies together, competent people rise up. You have a kind of a solution to things. Our technocrats are just idiots. They're just not even competent at being technocrats. And Fauci's a great example. That's who we'd be ruled by. I'd rather be ruled by Biden, to be honest, than Fauci if I had to choose.
Yeah.
Well, he keeps contradicting himself. Even recently with the mask thing, he said there's no evidence that you should wear 2 masks. Now he says you should wear 2 masks.
Wait, hold on. The first thing he said was, it's just common sense that 2 masks would be better.
Yeah.
Then he came out later and said, well, there's nothing saying that 2 masks would be better. Then he came out again saying 2 masks are better, and then the CDC issues a guideline saying wear 2 masks.
Yeah, he also said that all the vaccines will be available for everyone by April. He now changed that to June. He was telling everyone not to wear masks. He was talking about airborne transmissions. He was talking about so many things that he was absolutely wrong on, and yet he's still being played by Brad Pitt. He's still being portrayed as some kind of religious god figure to some people. I mean, the worship of this man is absolutely sickening.
They have to, though, which is to your point earlier. Michael Malice says that, which is the propaganda wouldn't be necessary if they were winning. It's just so unbelievable. These people are so dumb.
Think about how crazy it is that Fauci literally came out and said, Fauci said this, don't wear a mask. He said, no, you don't need a mask. You don't need to go do that. And then he came out later saying, oh, you got to wear a mask. Then he came out saying wear 2, then don't wear 2, then wear 2. Now the CDC says wear 2. Wouldn't any regular person like you described, Mike, who just wants to go home, spend some time with their kids, eventually be like, I can't take it anymore. You can't tell me what is going on or why, and you keep changing everything. At a certain point, you'd be like, there's no way you expect me to do both.
Oh, no, over 30 people are. So that's the divide I notice is there's an outdoor gym, because Orange County is pretty much life as normal where I live, because the sheriff's like, we're not going to ticket people and arrest people for, Governor Newsom. Sorry, not going to do it. So we have an outdoor gym, and the boomers rarely wear their masks, except you have to when you check in and you check out. The under 30 people, in between their little sets, they're wearing the masks. So the majority of the people, especially if you're not even red, blue, but just the majority of the people are done with it. Majority of the people are, what do I got to do? Okay, do I got to wear a mask to check in? I'm going to check in it. But they don't actually respect Fauci. But you go to L.A., you go to these deep blue areas, 30-year-old people, they're actually enforcing. Imagine being a 30-year-old man and you're yelling at someone to wear a mask.
Or
right?
you're wearing a mask, and then you lift your mask up, take a bite of a cheeseburger, and then pull the mask down while you chew, and you're getting food bits all over your mask like some kind of moron. That's insane to me that they're doing that.
You see evidence that COVID exists in ice cream and just let it go right past you because you're cognitive dissonance. Like it's in the food supply. Get over it.
My point about Fauci is that I don't expect the average person to do all the research that I do every day.
Right.
They're not researchers. They're plumbers. They're custodians or carpenters or computer technicians or managers or car salesmen, whatever. I work all day reading this stuff, so I know. And then many people come to this show to try and get a critical assessment because That's not their job.
Right.
I wouldn't think I could go on the internet and learn how to be a plumber. I can try and do a tutorial. I'm going to hire a plumber, to be honest. I need the expert to do it. So what I'm saying is there are people who you could turn the TV on and you have Anderson Cooper sitting there with his glasses and he's like, Dr. Fauci, you say don't wear a mask. And Fauci goes, don't wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. And it's like, no. That was crazy. You need to. Then he comes out later saying to wear a mask. Then he comes out saying to, then don't wear to, then wear to, then the CDC says wear to. Wouldn't a regular person at some point just be like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do anymore because they keep changing what I'm supposed to do?
I think that's where they are, though. I guess that's what I've observed is that's where the average kind of regular person is, and it's only the people who live in these information silos, the woke kids in Brooklyn, or because again, just as a meta point is, I remember being a 30-year-old man. If you'd have told me to wear a mask, and I was probably more liberal when I was 30, I would say, what are you doing? Like, do I have to do it? I guess I will because you got to do what you got to do. Me being a man and yelling at another man when you're walking outside, walking your dog, you need to wear a mask is another bigger problem. But if you look at just public sentiment is where you is. People are kind of tired of it.
Have you seen that video where there's a woman, she's in a store, and there's a guy basically harassing her, and it reveals everything when he goes, does anybody else think it's messed up that she doesn't have to wear a mask, but we do? Right. Now you know what the guy was really mad about. Yep. He's mad that they got their boot on his neck, and he can't do anything about it, so he harasses some 5-foot-tall woman who's not wearing a mask.
Yeah, crabs in a bucket. Crabs in a bucket mindset. They don't want to do it, but everybody has to do it. They're going to do it. But yeah, sentiment's changed, man. People are mad. That's why they're doing more and more of suppressing information. That's why people like the New York Times, unfettered conversations are happening. This is bad. You shouldn't have to scold people if your message is credible, because most people can kind of observe the world. Like even if you work and you work hard and people tell you, okay, man-made global warming is caused by carbon emissions, and you're like, okay, but you're flying a private jet. You have yachts.
Buying beachfront property.
You're buying beachfront property, but wait a minute. You're going to be underwater here in Martha's Vineyard, and you just spent $15 million on your home. So there's such a disconnect between the messaging from the ruling elite and how they actually live their lives that more and more people are frustrated.
Do you think these regular people who are kind of just like getting shocked out of the system because the media is full of it, do you think they're going to reject all this wokeness? Because it kind of feels like it's just sweeping over everything, like the critical theory and all that stuff.
Well, that's why they're, again, trying to push it in an educational thing. That's why the media is pushing it so hard and having their little purges, because, because we read media, even though we read it critically, we're gaslit. We're still victims because we still think this is overrepresented, because that's what we look at all day, even to say, like, this is wrong. We're still, like, gaslit. For example, if you read the internet, I'm a pretty, like, hated guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
I get recognized almost every day, even in these little smaller areas I go, and it's always positive. Even if it's negative, a guy just kind of like laughs. Nobody actually really thinks I'm a scary person. Yeah. People be like, "Oh, Cernovich," kind of like one of those. But nobody. But on the internet, I'm like a very, very scary guy. But that's gaslighting. That's not how people actually think. In microcosm, that's the same thing with the macrocosm. People are like, "This is a lie."
One of my favorite things is how, if you right now state, you've tweeted before you're in favor of universal health care, right?
Yeah, pretty, I could, people are like, oh, Andrew Yang, universal income. I'm like, well, you can read a political article about me in 2017 where I was talking about universal basic income. And my problem with that more was like the incentives it creates versus the idea that I think it's good to give poor people money, but that's far right.
You can come out and publicly state 10 left-wing positions and then criticize critical race theory, and what will happen is, say, on Wikipedia, people will say, hey, Mike Cernovich has a whole bunch of left-wing populist positions, and they'll say, well, he's not a good source, you can't use him as a reference, is there a credible article? And then you will tweet, critical race theory is a bad thing, and they will use it and say, well, he said it, so it's what he believes, we better include it, he's a far-right, alt-right, whatever. What you say only matters if it's bad for you, if you're saying things against the cathedral. Well,
yeah, what the cathedral does, though, is that, again, though, is part of the gaslighting. So the gaslighting is that if you're me and you believed the internet because you read the news, even though you know the news is a lie, you'd be like, oh, man, people don't really like me. And then you're like, where are these people? Mm-hmm. Literally, where are these people? I've walked down Manhattan. I've been in the most populous, like, lefty areas. And I get the El Chapo kind of irony, bro, like, hey, Cernovich or something like that. Nobody's like, oh, my God, that's a scary person. Because the idea when they caricature in the media, which is so funny, is if I were a scary person, you would not write about me, right?
Yeah.
You don't see these people, these woke boys in Brooklyn, writing about actually scary people like prison gangs.
They're not writing about Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah, exactly. They're not writing about Charlie Hebdo. Or they're not even writing about, like, even these people are like, oh, yeah, there's all these, racists everywhere. Then go write about the Aryan Brotherhood. Go knock on the door.
MS-13.
Yeah, go write about MS-13. So if they were actually afraid, then they wouldn't even write about it. So that again translates to everything, which is the media, they lie so much that even when you're criticizing them, you still have a form of victimization of your mind, because you're like, oh yeah, this is predominant opinion. No, this isn't. This isn't even predominant left wing. The critical race theory thing is not even predominantly left wing.
I went to Portland. I was actually kind of worried when I went to Portland, because I've been to Berkeley. Berkeley was kind of creepy, but I walked around with Berkeley with no problems at all. Although someone did try starting a fight with me at a skate park, which was crazy, and then some other did intervene. But I went to Portland. Portland is like Antifa Central. And I was worried. I was like, I'm going to get someone's going to yell at me. And guess what happened? So this guy starts walking up to me, and I'm like, oh, man. Oh, here we go. And he walks up, and he goes, oh, Tim Pool, nice to meet you, man. And shakes my hand, and he's like, big fan. I love what you do. And I was like, oh, I appreciate it. And I was like, is that like, you think a lot of people in Portland feel that way? He's like, oh, yeah, definitely. A bunch of my friends watch your stuff. And I was like, oh, that's really neat. I go to a restaurant. I'm sitting at the bar, and I order like a spicy chicken and bacon. I'm like, oh, I'm all excited. And the guy brings my sandwich out. It looks amazing. And he goes, hey, aren't you Tim Pool? And I went, oh, I can't eat this now. Yep. This guy. And then he was like, I'll be right back. And I was like, oh, dude, what? And he comes out and he gives me a free bottle of hot sauce. He's like, dude, I love your stuff, man. It's fantastic. And I was like, oh, wow, thank you. And I'm like, all of these people online who say all these nasty things, where are they? You know what it is? It's really simple, actually. What the internet has done, let's say every city in the country, let's say there's 100 cities, and 60% of the people in these cities are regular middle-of-the-road people. And then 30% are more politically active, liberal or conservative, but still fairly normal. And then you have one person who's crazy extremist. That one person goes online and finds the one person in every other city and creates a network of 100 people to harass you. You then start feeling like there's a large group coming after you. But when you go out these places, most people are like, oh, yeah, I heard about you. Yeah, cool. How's it going? And it's just totally normal.
Do me a favor, guys. Tweet out some love to Tim and Mike and Luke.
Oh, I don't care.
Because I think the crap, the negativity gets shouted out because you feel it, you're angry, it's easy, you're motivated. But the love, it's important that you send that too.
I've been on ayahuasca too many times. I've been confronted with all of the things known and unknown by God, like telling me this is what you need to work on. So then when people on the internet are like nipping at me, it doesn't. On an emotional level, it just doesn't have any kind of impact. I'm like,
and I got to say something too. Like, there's no need to do that. I don't check my mentions. Maybe like once or twice periodically. If I tweet something, and it shows me the tweet and the thing, mentions come in. But why do I care about what some anime cat girl on Twitter thinks about what I should do with my business? Like this person with 14 followers who says dumb things. I'm like, you're doing great for yourself. I think I'll take my own advice on this one.
Well, what it does though is, I guess to your point is, it does gaslight you a little bit, where it doesn't oh man, there's a lot of people on the internet being mean to me. I'm really sad, but it's more like, wow, I'm a really hated guy. You start to believe it, right? Because that's all you see. Like, wow, man, people really do hate me. And because I'll be a shut-in where I hardly ever leave my house, and then leave my house, people are like, oh man, love your stuff, blah blah blah. So it does create this kind of construct where because you only hear one messaging, even though emotionally it doesn't regulate or mess with you.
That's true. There was a really funny moment where you retweeted something from me. I tweeted something, and it was not, I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't like super pro-Trump or anti-Trump. It was a political thing that was like cultural, and I thought it was more like a libertarian issue. It was something about freedom, free speech. You retweeted it, and then some lefties started responding, saying like, look at all of the people who are responding to you, all of these, far right, whatever. And I was like, I said something like, people retweet tweets. Like, people follow whatever they want to follow. And they said, if you really did believe in freedom, then you would have left-wing people coming in here and commenting. And then all of a sudden there were like 50 to 100 responses from people who follow me saying, oh yeah, I'm a liberal. I follow Tim. We just don't tweet. We mind our own business. Right. Regular people aren't trying to scream at you on the internet. And so what do you see online? The lunatics, the ones who are screaming the loudest. And that, I got to be honest, that includes each and every one of us in this room. We are more likely to be egocentric or narcissistic than the average person. That's a fact.
That's a good point that you were making here. And I was going to add that to Ian. Also, just like negative comments hurt you, too many good comments hurt you as well, because they build up your ego and this perception and this identity that you're perfect and you have no imperfections, and that everything you do, your farts smell like roses no matter what you eat, no matter how many Taco Bells you go to, it doesn't matter.
But I think for the most part, the internet is a negative place. You're
course.
not getting a lot of people saying like, dude, I really love you. You're so fantastic. You get them sometimes. But it's the
same
angry
thing.
hate
But
is what...
it's the same thing, though, where if you go through life and you get like good service or something, you rarely write like a thank you card to the person. Because one of the exercises I did early on when I was an angry guy, maybe 19, you do these at-home DVD or CDs. That's how you had to do it. And one exercise was like a gratitude exercise. So if you went to the airplane and like somebody was really nice to you, you would write a letter to the manager, but it was like a good letter.
Mike, say one good thing about Antifa.
Oh, they have a lot of money. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
So I will say, I'll say this actually. There was a guy, he actually went to jail, went to prison. He attacked someone outside of one of my events in New York, and he apologized to the guy he attacked. He still felt morally justified in what he did, and he said he didn't regret it, but it was more like, oh, I didn't realize I was hitting a civilian, kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
But when I read his stuff, he wrote with a great level of sensitivity and a great level of empathy. But he just believes things about the world that aren't true. And that's, again, where they read things on the internet. They don't actually talk. I'm like, hey, dude, you can give me a call, bro. Like, you can give me a call and you can say, hey, Mike, do you believe these things before you want to riot? And I'll honestly tell you what I believe or what I don't believe. So some of them do have above average amount of literacy, above average amount of compassion, above average amount of cultural awareness.
Midwits.
But, the thug element, because if you're like white and you want to be in a gang, you join Antifa because you can kind of get away with it, right? It's like a life hack. Do you want to be violent? You can join the Hells Angels, which you're actually around really tough guys, and that maybe you're not tough enough to do that. Or you can join Antifa, and you have a license to beat people up, and you're going to even be defended by Merrick Garland.
There you go.
Celebrities will endorse you and support you.
So I'm partly kidding with the Antifa thing, but I've said it a couple times because I really don't like what these people have done, a lot of them, the violence. But I also think it's really dangerous if we only ever go down the path of demonization. We have to recognize these people, the saying goes that the left, the right thinks the left is misguided, but the left thinks the right is evil. And we need to make sure that there's always a path to redemption. Well, I think typically there's a tendency towards a path to redemption. Some people are just like, it's too far gone, and you're like, I don't know what we can do for this person. But I look at a lot of these activists, and I had a conversation with an Antifa guy in Berkeley. He was screaming at like some right-wing dude, and I was filming. And then once things started to calm down, I asked him, tell me what was going on. What were you saying? He started explaining. He's like, well, so this guy's here, and I'm saying this. And then we started walking back down towards the park where they were doing that rally. And he was like, these people are all fascists, man. You got to understand. And I said, do you think these people are all fascists? And he's like, yes, I do. And I said, do you think these people love the Second Amendment? He's like, well, yeah, of course. I was like, why do you think they love the Second Amendment? They're always complaining about the government trying to take over. And I was like, well, that sounds like they're scared of fascism. And he was like, wait, I mean, no, they're fascist. And I was like, bro, I think they're as scared of fascism as you are. And he was like, oh. I'm like, that's that moment. No one ever told him that. So maybe there's a chance to these people aren't getting real news. Like Naomi Wolf, right? She's getting this bad information, and then she goes on Tucker, and she's like, I can't believe how wrong I was. And I'm like, thank you very much. Welcome to the fight. That's the right thing to do.
Or they could go to Boeing. They could go to Boeing's house. There's just so many. You could go to the Raytheon CEO house. They wouldn't even know they're.
Yeah, right.
That to me is why all of this stuff is sort of empty. Is at least when they were doing the WTO protests in Seattle, okay, you're actually fighting the system. You're actually fighting the establishment. I don't agree with your tactics. I don't agree with rioting. But hey, I can actually see that. But going to disrupt Andy No's book sale, Paul Books, is to me just, okay, you're not fighting the system, bro.
Right. He's just like, he's the child of immigrants who wrote a book. He's one guy. He has no institutional power. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.